After my rebirth, my sister switched my room keycard with hers. Her hands trembled, her voice filled with excitement. Sister, you've already been Mrs. Jiang for a lifetime. It's my turn to enjoy this immense fortune. After a night of passion, my sister emerged with a confident smile. Last time, you also got pregnant on the first try, riding on your child's coattails, right? Looking at her belly, I smiled too. Hi, my super male syndrome son. No, little nephew. In my past life, during holidays, my sister would always complain to me about her unhappy marriage. Songyu is so stupid. He's been at the company for 5 years and is still just a junior manager. He's completely useless. All he does is stay home, doing laundry and cooking. He has no masculinity at all. Your husband is so much better. Successful in his career, wealthy and generous. Sister, is that dress you're wearing the latest from Dior? It's so beautiful. Seeing her reach for my sleeve, I stopped her, only to be met with my sister's resentful grumbling. It's not like it'll break if I touch it. So stingy. You're just lucky. You even got the wrong room key card at a hotel and ended up sleeping with the CEO of the Jiang Group. If I had entered that room, at that time, I was too busy trying to hide the numerous bruises beneath my fancy clothes, completely oblivious to my sister's envious gaze. The CEO of the Jiang Group, my husband, Jiang Yubai, seemingly aware that we were talking about him, he turned his head and gave me a slight, infinitely doting smile. Everyone praised him as a wife-doting madman, praised my good fortune, with my sister's voice being the loudest and most grating. But I shuddered violently. No one knew that Jiang Yubai was sick, a lunatic, a maniac. I was almost tortured to death by him. But unexpectedly, in the end, I didn't die at Jiang Yubai's hands. Instead, I died at the hands of my own sister, Tan Shuang. Because of her constant ridicule and mockery, Songyu had an affair. On the day of the divorce, Tan Shuang didn't seek revenge on her cheating husband and his mistress, but instead, she barged into my house with a knife. Tan Xiao, you're just lucky. You married well. Now that Songyu has dumped me, you must be even more smug, right? My life is ruined, and you won't have a good life either. With that, she plunged the knife into my main artery. And, because the night before, I had been locked next to the toilet by Jiang Yubai all night, I had no strength to resist. Before I could even shout that actually, your brother-in-law is worse than Songyu, a devil. I breathed my last. Ha 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 ha. Once again, Tan Shuang's frenzied laughter echoed in my ears. I abruptly opened my eyes. The face of Tan Shuang, distorted with jealousy before my death, overlapped with her current face, distorted with excitement. I suddenly realized, Tan Shuang and I had both been reborn. Mom, I want this room. Tan Shuang moved quickly, with a hint of urgency, as if she was afraid I would compete with her. She took the hotel room that was originally booked for me from my mother's hand. Narrowing my eyes, I guessed that this was probably the time when our family of 4 went on a trip, and I first met Jiang Yubai. You're just lucky. You even got the wrong room key card at a hotel and ended up sleeping with the CEO of the Jiang Group. If I had entered that room, Tan Shuang's words from my past life echoed in my ears. I looked at her bloodshot eyes and her voice, slightly altered by the joy of her wish being fulfilled. The corners of my lips curled up slightly. Sure. I nodded, and then I let Tan Shuang switch my room key card with hers. Standing in front of the corresponding room, Tan Shuang lowered her voice, a hint of madness in her eyes. Sister, you've already been Mrs. Jiang for a lifetime. It's my turn to enjoy this immense fortune. Don't worry after I marry brother-in-law. No, President Jiang, I'll give you tens of thousands of yuan as compensation for killing you in the past life. With that, she impatiently pushed open the door, embracing her new life. This is exactly what I wanted. Tan Shuang wants to take my life? Perfect. I don't want to walk the same path of my past life either. Staring intently at the closed door, I seemed to be able to see through it, to the beastly man inside. And Tan Shuang's ill-fated present life. After staring for a moment, I left, humming a light tune. This immense pile of crap, finally, it won't be dumped on my head anymore. That night, I had the first peaceful sleep in 2 lifetimes. There would be no more man who suddenly flew into a rage, dragging me to the ground and beating me, and no one would attack me both physically and psychologically anymore. When I opened the curtains, the sun was shining brightly, and the wind was gentle. Unlike me, Tan Shuang was experiencing a night of passion. When she emerged from that room again, her face was filled with a blissful smile. And when she saw me again, that bliss transformed entirely into determination. Sister, in our past life, did you also hit the jackpot on the first try and ride your pregnancy to success? As she spoke, she caressed her still flat stomach. Soon, I'll be able to replace you. Before I could even congratulate her, our parents, along with Jiang Yubai, happened to come out. Upon seeing a man exiting Tan Shuang's room, my parents flew into a rage. Who are you? Why were you in my daughter's room? What did you do to her? As she spoke, my mother moved to slap Jiang Yubai's face. A wave of nausea washed over me. We had both gone through this, but in my past life, I never received such treatment. Slap. In my past life, my mother had also delivered a slap, except that slap had landed on my face.
Slut.
Seducing men right after turning 18, you're bringing shame to the Tan family. I had always known that my parents favored my younger sister. But if it weren't for this rebirth, I would never have known just how blatant their favoritism was. They used words like slut to describe me, the victim. Yet, they held my sister, who had gone through the same thing, close, cooing and comforting her. My gaze swept across everyone present, inch by inch. This time, I want them all. Tan Shuang, who envied me and wanted to steal everything from me. My parents, who gave birth to me, but didn't love me. My Jiang Yubai. I want them all to suffer a fate worse than death.
Mom.
It's not this gentleman's fault. He was also drugged. That's why he was like that to me. He's definitely not some kind of thug. We're both victims. We shouldn't be blaming and hurting each other. Tan Shuang put on a reasonable act, seemingly trying to play the role of a clear-headed woman, hoping to impress Jiang Yubai. Then she gave her parents a warning look. How could she allow her clueless parents to ruin her plan of stealing my wealthy life? Years of mother-daughter understanding meant my mother didn't continue her outburst. Instead, she changed her tune and started demanding an explanation from Jiang Yubai. But Jiang Yubai didn't immediately promise to marry and take responsibility for me like he did in our past life after we slept together. Instead, he simply said nonchalantly, 1 million, is that enough? Wah. What? Tan Shuang was completely stunned, her eyes widening in disbelief. My mother, however, couldn't hold back any longer. Her protective instincts made her lose all rationality, and with bloodshot eyes, she cursed Jiang Yubai. My daughter lost her purity because of you, and not only are you not going to marry her to protect her reputation, but you're also trying to settle this with money? You beast. Do you think my daughter is a prostitute? Jiang Yubai let out a cold laugh. A one-night stand, and you want to drag marriage into it? You people from the Qing dynasty sure live long. If the situation weren't so inappropriate, I would have burst out laughing. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I heard something agreeable come out of Jiang Yubai's mouth. After writing a check, Jiang Yubai left without looking back. Only Tan Shuang remained, putting on a brave face, tears welling up in her eyes. She had always been the apple of our parents' eyes, and this display further tugged at their heartstrings. The 3 of them looked like they were about to burst into tears together. And I, like an outsider, didn't fit in at all. In my past life, I had also asked my mother why she treated Tan Shuang better than me. You're the older sister. Why do you have to compete with your younger sister for everything since you were little? Shuang is younger than you. It's only natural that she needs our help more, right? Besides, Tan Xiao, ask yourself, Shuang is lively and sweet, but you? You always have a gloomy face, like we owe you money. Even though I love both of you, can I like my more affectionate daughter a little more? Does being a mother mean I can't have my own preferences? That's what she said, and that's what she did. So now, she repeatedly assured Tan Shuang that she would get justice for her and wouldn't let her suffer in vain. Tan Shuang also appropriately expressed that she might have fallen in love with Jiang Yubai at first sight, and marriage wasn't out of the question. Love at first sight? More like love at first sight of money. When someone is determined to court death, no one can stop them. Perhaps my mocking gaze was too piercing. After sending our parents away, Tan Shuang pulled me into her room. No longer showing any sign of vulnerability, she glared at me fiercely and questioned, Tan Xiao, did you do this? But I acted innocent. We both just got reborn. You know whether I had any contact with Jiang Yubai or not, right? Tan Shuang thought about it and realized I was right. Then she continued to threaten me. Tan Xiao, you've already lost the upper hand in this life, so don't have any inappropriate thoughts otherwise. I could kill you once, and I can kill you again. Even if you tell mom and dad, it's useless. Who would believe that we've been reborn? Even if they did, they love me so much, they wouldn't be on your side. The person Tan Shuang has always longed for, Jiang Yubai, is a pervert. His greatest hobby is training dogs. I'm the dog he's never been able to tame, so he spends the most time on me. He's the most obsessed with me. I've known all this from the beginning. The reason he proposed to me right after our one-night stand in our previous life is precisely because I resisted him to the death that night. It wasn't my looks that attracted him, but my rebellious spirit and the sense of conquest that only I could give him. Scanning the mess in Tan Shuang's room, I frowned in disgust. Last night, she must have been very cooperative, right? So cooperative that she failed to ignite Jiang Yubai's desire for a challenge, unable to satisfy his perverted desires. Crossing my arms, I spoke coldly. Even if I don't fight you for Yubai, you won't get him, will you? He seems to have no interest in you at all. What good is being reborn? He still only likes me, not you. Under my provocation, Tan Shuang's face darkened as she remained silent for a while, her eyes darting around as if she were trying to come up with a countermeasure. Finally, she chuckled softly. Yes, he likes you, the you who pretends to be aloof, who plays hard to get. Sister, thank you for enlightening me. Looking at Tan Shuang's confident expression, I nodded in satisfaction. She has a brain, but not much of one. As for Jiang Yubai, he's also a fool, actually falling for Tan Shuang's imitation of me. How much does he love the me from our previous life? And my parents, loving the house because of the crow on its roof, began to accept this wealthy and respectable prospective son-in-law and covered up their initial conflict as a misunderstanding. A month later, just like me in my previous life, Tan Shuang started experiencing morning sickness. I still remember when my pregnancy was confirmed, my parents slapped me hard in front of all the medical staff. They scolded me for getting pregnant before marriage, for dragging down my sister's reputation. With a sister like you, how will your sister find a husband in the future? She'll be talked about behind her back. You're shameless yourself. Why do you have to drag the whole family down? After that, I didn't have a single penny of dowry, and I didn't even have a wedding. I was stuffed into the Jiang family by my parents and registered my marriage with Jiang Yubai. Ying, walk slowly, be careful of my precious grandson. My mom supported Tan Shuang as they returned from the hospital, just as I was reminiscing. After helping Tan Shuang sit down, she turned and yelled at me. Tan Xiao, are your eyes just for show? Your sister's pregnant. Don't you know to pour her a glass of water? That's right, with that ferocious expression. This is my mother. But for some reason, there was still a secret corner in my heart, holding onto a sliver of inexplicable hope. So I asked, Tan Shuang is pregnant before marriage. Aren't you disgusted by her? My mom didn't care at all. Don't talk nonsense. Your sister and your brother-in-law are deeply in love. They couldn't help themselves. What unmarried pregnancy? That's so unpleasant to hear. They just had the child first, and will go through the procedures later. It's all the same. Saying that, she seemed to remember something and hurriedly grabbed her phone to call Jiang Yubai. Now that they have a child, it's time to discuss the wedding arrangements. Unexpectedly, the Jiang family, who had always been evasive about marriage, readily agreed after hearing that Tan Shuang was pregnant. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the smiles on the faces of the mother and daughter, and I felt a surge of delight. Laugh, you won't be laughing soon. To prevent the pregnancy from showing and causing gossip, my parents quickly finalized Tan Shuang and Jiang Yubai's wedding, using all their resources to book a hotel and order a wedding dress. They vowed to give their daughter an unforgettable wedding. While everyone was busy preparing for the wedding, I moved out of the house, using the excuse that it would be inconvenient for my brother-in-law to visit if I continued to live there. In my previous life, I got married and had children right after graduation, missing out on many opportunities. This time, someone has completely taken over my bad luck. Then let me do the work I want to do and live the life I want to live. On the wedding day, as her older sister, I naturally attended. Looking at the gorgeous wedding dress that I never got to wear and the table full of expensive delicacies, I felt nothing. When they came to toast, Tan Shuang specifically pulled me aside to put on a show of sisterly affection, whispering in my ear so that only the two of us could hear, Tan Xiao, you're so stupid. To not hold onto such a rich man, to be so easily robbed by me. Thank you, the big villa is very comfortable and the Rolls-Royce is much better than the subway. But it's a pity. You're destined to be poor for the rest of your life. I accepted her mockery gracefully and calmly drank the wine in my cup. Garbage collectors love fighting over trash. Congratulations, sister. You and your husband are truly a match made in heaven, equally worthless. She clearly missed my sarcasm and continued to strut like a peacock, showing off her perfect love story at every table. After marriage, Tan Shuang finally achieved the wealthy lifestyle she had dreamed of for 2 lifetimes. She wore million-dollar dresses and carried limited edition bags. Beautiful instruments of torture, she collected set after set. Besides that, her favorite activity was flaunting her success in front of me, showing off how happy she was after stealing my life, while enjoying the sight of my fall from grace. When she learned I was working overtime for a monthly salary barely over 10,000, her smugness reached new heights. Tan Xiao, in my previous life when I complained to you about Song Yu being useless, even though you kept saying every family has their struggles and people should be content, you were actually looking down on me, weren't you? You lived so well, enjoying the finest of everything. You've forgotten how the poor live, haven't you? Since you're so accepting of your fate, why don't you just enjoy this life then? I put down my coffee and studied the current Tan Shuang. People rely on clothes as horses rely on saddles. Today's Tan Shuang was even more glamorous than her previous life. Dear sister, is that a Patek Philippe on your wrist? Such a nice watch. Missing my sarcasm again, Tan Shuang thought I was complimenting her and proudly stroked her belly, radiating pride. See, reincarnation doesn't increase intelligence. Seeing her gesture, I remembered what the doctor told me after the amniocentesis in my previous life. I smiled sinisterly. I heard Tan Shuang had pulled strings to check the baby's gender. It's a boy. Boys are good, perfect for inheriting Jiang Yubai's genes. The day after Tan Shuang visited me, I encountered the person I'd been avoiding since my reincarnation, Jiang Yubai, at the bidding conference. My heart skipped a beat. Although in this life he married Tan Shuang, a man like him isn't constrained by moral principles. If he sets his sights on me, he might extend his demonic claws again. That's why I've been acting docile and meek, keeping my presence to a minimum. But I never expected that while I was confidently presenting our company's proposal to the audience, Jiang Yubai would be there in the crowd. I thought I'd finished work for the day and could finally relax. But he cornered me in a deserted section of the parking lot. As his tall frame approached menacingly, trapping me between him and the wall, my breath caught. Memories of being beaten by this man in my previous life flooded my mind. Back then, whenever I called the police after he hit me, he would chain me up like a dog to make me obedient. He'd put food on the ground and make me crawl to eat it. At first, I struggled violently while he watched with fascination, deriving pleasure from my resistance. 3 days passed, and I fainted from hunger beside the dining table, but I never lost my dignity. That incident fueled Jiang Yubai's obsession with conquering me to its peak. He would often do things normal people couldn't bear. Not letting me wear clothes, not allowing me to go out, making me kneel to endure his treatment. In public, he was the well-dressed, gentle, and caring gentleman. In private, he tortured me until I was broken. My fear of Jiang Yubai was carved into my bones. Noticing my trembling, Jiang Yubai's eyes lit up with even more interest. Sister, are you afraid of me? After much mental preparation, I finally found my voice and maintained my meek persona. I knew Jiang Yubai hated personality-less puppets the most, so I didn't dare struggle at all. The parking lot is too cold. Brother-in-law, why are you here? Is Shuang here too? I tried to escape using the excuse of looking for my sister, but he grabbed my wrist. He lowered his head and lightly sniffed my wrist. Sister seems different from usual? When I saw those deep, probing eyes behind his gold-rimmed glasses, my heart sank. It's over. Despite all my precautions, I still couldn't escape. Even in this new life, am I destined to be pursued by Jiang Yubai? What does he like about me? Why is it useless even though I've changed? A fierce glint flashed in my eyes as I forcefully broke free from Jiang Yubai's grip. If avoidance doesn't work, then let's confront this head-on. I wiped the spot where Jiang Yubai had touched me with disgust, my voice filled with undisguised contempt. His wife is pregnant, yet he still has such wandering thoughts. Shouldn't he be afraid I'll tell Shuang? Jiang Yubai casually leaned against the wall and shrugged. Feel free, sister-in-law. Shameless. Not wanting to waste another word on such a person, I turned to leave, but Jiang Yubai spoke again behind me. Sister-in-law is so alluring. How did I not notice before? I have a feeling, sister-in-law. You belong to me. After this incident, I accelerated my preparations to deal with the Jiang family. Thanks to my pathetic existence in my previous life, Jiang Yubai never took me seriously. He never bothered hiding his confidential documents or business calls from me. I closed my eyes and recalled every detail. When I opened them again, I had a perfect plan. Although I never told Tan Shuang about Jiang Yubai harassing me, she found out anyway. When my mother's desperate calls brought me home, I opened the door to hear Tan Shuang sobbing. She was skilled at fake crying to gain my parents' sympathy. Mom, someone's trying to seduce you by. Her husband's cheating again. I looked at Tan Shuang in surprise. Why does everyone who's with her end up cheating? But when Tan Shuang took out a photo, my mockery faded. It was from that day in the parking lot when Jiang Yubai cornered me. Someone had secretly taken it, but fortunately, due to the angle and height, Jiang Yubai completely blocked me from view. Tan Xiao, your company was at the bidding conference too. Do you know who that homewrecker is? Though Tan Shuang asked this, her eyes were clearly questioning if it was me. I had to admit, her intuition was spot on. But I couldn't acknowledge it. With brother-in-law's wealth and looks, there are plenty of women pursuing him. How would I know which one this is? Hearing my words, Tan Shuang assumed I had experienced similar situations with Jiang Yubai being seduced by others in my previous life, and she clenched her fists in anger. My mother kept cursing. Seducing someone's husband. May her whole family die. Did this homewrecker's mother die early, leaving no one to teach her? Like mother, like daughter. I bet her mother was a homewrecker too. That's what you call family tradition. How terrifying. My mother kept cursing herself without knowing it, using the worst possible words. When she finally finished cursing, Tan Shuang spoke venomously. Mistress or not, I'm the one carrying the Jiang family's precious grandson. As long as Yubai's parents value me, no one can threaten my position. I won't let anyone who tries to destroy my family get away with it. As she spoke, she stared at me maliciously, her words clearly directed at me. Perfect. We have 2 lifetimes of grudges between us, and my life. She won't let me go? I won't let her go either. Yes, teach them a lesson. But darling, you need to take care of yourself. Mom, I didn't just come back today because of the mistress. There's something more important. Something more important. I scrutinized Tan Shuang suspiciously, finally letting my gaze fall on her belly. Sure enough, Tan Shuang took out a report from her bag. Sitting up straight, I glanced at the report and suddenly understood. Then wild joy filled my heart. Heaven was being kind to me. What Tan Shuang produced was her amniocentesis report. Mom, my baby has XYY syndrome. My parents looked bewildered. What syndrome? Tan Shuang explained anxiously and worriedly for a long time before they finally understood what this condition was. You mean the baby has an extra Y? Y what? Y chromosome. Normal males have XY chromosomes, females have XX, but this child is different. Oh, so doesn't that mean he'll be extra manly? Ying, you should be happy. Seeing my parents still didn't quite understand, Tan Shuang was practically dying of frustration. How can I be happy? Do you illiterate people have any idea about the dangers of XYY syndrome? I looked up the information. This child is born defective, likely to develop antisocial personality disorder, and might kill the whole family. Even the doctor suggested I consider whether to keep it. After this explanation, my parents were clearly shocked too. Then better abort it. No grandson is more important than our daughter. You can have another child later. Mom just wants her Ying safe and happy. There's that mother-daughter act again. I clenched my fists and lowered my gaze, afraid I couldn't hide the disgust in my eyes. In my previous life, my child also had XYY syndrome. That was the first time I had ever encountered such a thing. In a panic, I went home to cry to my parents. But what did my parents say then? What's super male? Never heard of it. That's your own child, the flesh of your own body. You want to abort him? Are you even human? Did you read your books for nothing? You believe everything the doctor says. If you lose this child, and the Jiang family sends you back, we won't take you in. Be good and have the baby. Don't make your husband angry. So many women in the world are having babies, and I've never seen anyone more troublesome than you. At the time, I just thought they were stubborn and ignorant. Turns out, they just had no heart, did they? Perhaps it was because they had done too much evil that even God couldn't stand it anymore. He let me be reborn and he let me. Bet on it. Because in my past life, the doctor said, there are some issues with the child's test results. He has an extra Y chromosome compared to normal people. Ms. Tan, is the child's father ill-tempered? What does this have to do with Jiang Yubai? At first, I was just puzzled, but when Jiang Yubai's parents blurted out, how is it a super male again? Could it be hereditary? All the mysteries were solved. Jiang Yubai is also a patient with super male syndrome. That's why he is impulsive, irritable, and tyrannical. And that's exactly why Jiang Yubai's parents place so much importance on their offspring. Super male syndrome with low fertility. This is likely the only child Jiang Yubai will ever have, the bloodline that their Jiang family worships like a god. That's why they initially looked down on my family, but upon hearing that Tan Shuang was pregnant, they immediately decided to accept her. Afterwards, I also looked up relevant information, but because there was not much information available, and this type of genotype disease has not been thoroughly studied yet. Some experts say it's a chromosomal disease, not a genetic disease. But other experts say it can be inherited. Sis, you have more experience in this area. Should I abort this child? Seeing that I didn't speak for a long time, just watching the drama, Tan Shuang finally couldn't help but ask me. I was very innocent. How would I know? I've never been pregnant, and I don't even have a partner. This time, even my parents were on my side. That's right, Ying, are you so anxious that you're confused? How would your sister know about this kind of thing? She knows. She was The words were on the tip of her tongue, but Tan Shuang stopped herself. Instead, she sent my parents away and asked me privately. Tan Xiao, don't play dumb with me. Didn't your child in your past life have this disease too? How could you not know? With Tan Shuang's vicious nature, if I really spoke up, no matter if there were issues with the child or not, she would blame me. Just like in my past life, when I advised her to complain less about Song Yu and think more about his good points. Whether I was sincere or not, she never cared. She always harbored malicious suspicions about me, thinking that I was just like her, unable to stand the sight of others' happiness. Therefore, I simply told her ambiguously, yeah, but I have a mother's rose-tinted glasses. Besides, didn't you also see your little nephew in your past life? Tan Shuang suddenly realized, as if she had made up her mind. Right. I've seen him. That child looked no different from other children, and the doctor said that as long as he is taught well, the child will be fine. I can't lose this child, lose you by. I can't. Using the excuse of having work at the company, I got up and said goodbye. But on the way back, I burst into laughter, not to mention the probability issue just talking about teaching well. In my past life, my child was fine possibly because I died early and the symptoms hadn't manifested yet. Or maybe it was because I had carefully taught him, guiding him on how to control his emotions. But this time, Jiang Yubai's super male baby is carried by Tan Shuang, a moody father and a sinister and vicious mother, raising a child with super male syndrome together. Jackpot. Tan Shuang ultimately did not abort the child. When the child was born, she even showed off on her social media. Mother and child are safe. From now on, there's one more person to love me. She thought she could live a happy life as a family of 3. But I knew it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. There truly was one more person for her to take over. Her real nightmare was about to begin. Sure enough, before she even finished her postpartum confinement, Tan Shuang got beaten up. That's right, the only reason Jiang Yubai had delayed taking action was because of the child, fearing that he would have no offspring. Not because of love. After the child was born, he finally had no more worries, and his true nature was fully exposed. But Tan Shuang was indeed luckier than me. Seeing the bruises on their daughter's body, my parents were furious and went to stand up for their daughter with a vengeance. The Jiang family, however, no longer had their previous pleasant demeanor. She's asked to breastfeed, and she complains of pain here and there. In-laws, you can go ask around in other families, see if any other young wife is so precious. As if no one else has ever given birth. So, when that part of her was seducing my son could suckle, but my grandson can't? Taken aback by this, my parents became even angrier, even threatening divorce. Fine. The child carries our Jiang family's bloodline. You can have your daughter back. With my son's looks and family background, your daughter is too foolish to appreciate a good thing. There are plenty of women willing to marry into our family. There was nothing we could do about them. In a fit of rage, my mother fainted on the spot. After being rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, she was left half paralyzed. But when I and Tan Shuang were at her bedside, she didn't have time to care about her old mother's life. Instead, she asked me in a daze. Tan Xiao, I remember in my last life, he hit you too, right? Why didn't you get a divorce? Yes, Jiang Yubai. Hit me too. Why didn't I get a divorce? Recalling what my mother had said to me then, I repeated those words to Tan Shuang. If you get divorced, you'll be considered second-hand goods. Who will want you then? Men are all the same. If you leave this one, can you guarantee the next one will be any better? Jiang Yubai has money and looks. You should be over the moon to be married to him. You must have done something wrong. Otherwise, why would such a good person suddenly hit you? I told you women should be gentle and virtuous. Don't throw tantrums every other day. You're a mother now. Do you still think you're a young girl? Tan Shuang, I'm not lying to you. These are your mother's exact words. From the moment you conceived the idea of swapping lives, you had no way out. For a prey like you who delivered yourself to his doorstep, with the potential to turn intentional harm into a family dispute within a marriage, how could Jiang Yubai possibly let you go? Why didn't I get a divorce in my last life? Because it was simply impossible to get one. Tan Shuang didn't stay long at the hospital before returning to the Jiang family, leaving me alone to keep watch. It wasn't that I was particularly filial. It was because the doctor said there was still a chance for my mother to recover if she underwent proper rehabilitation. How could that be allowed? So, after she woke up, I kept chattering to her, sharing intimate words between mother and daughter. Mom, do you know what kind of life your precious daughter is living now? I recounted everything I had suffered in my past life, one by one, except that in her perception, the one suffering such hardships was her Tan Shuang. I watched her heart ache, her agitation grow. If only she had felt this much pain for me in my last life. My eyes suddenly felt sore and stinging, and something flowed out from them. With a hoarse voice, I continued, "Do you know why she's living such a miserable life?" I knew from the beginning what kind of person Jiang Yubai was. I also knew from the beginning that he was the one in that hotel room, but the room was what your little daughter insisted on switching. The person was what your little daughter insisted on marrying. The child was also what your little daughter insisted on having. Ha 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 ha. The more I spoke, the more excited I became, and so did my mother. She lay in bed, struggling ceaselessly, like a fish stranded on the shore, gasping for water. Finally, she stopped moving. After composing myself, I put on a panicked expression, tears streaming down my face, and rushed out in a hurry. Doctor. My mother fainted again. This time, my mother would never have a chance to recover. She was destined to spend her remaining years in bed. Without her parents' protection, Tan Shuang's life was even more miserable than mine in my previous life. Perhaps because there was still a trace of curious affection, Jiang Yubai wasn't as cruel to me as he was to Tan Shuang. But I couldn't care less. I only focused on exploiting the vulnerabilities of the Jiang group and stealing their business. I met Jiang Yubai again a year later. Seeing that I was the person he was meeting, he approached me with a faint smile, unhurriedly. "Long time no see, sister." I smiled back at him, no longer feeling the fear I had when I first reincarnated and faced him. I had arrived early, and there was no one else around. Jiang Yubai spoke to me without any reservations. "Sister and Shuang don't have a good relationship, do they?" I tilted my head to look at him, remaining silent. He didn't mind whether I responded or not. He simply continued speaking. "Shuang is mischievous. She's taken many things from you since childhood, hasn't she? A hairpin, a doll, new clothes your parents love, and a room key." Only then did I realize originally the one I was supposed to spend the night with was Sister. She has taken so many things from Sister. How should we punish her? Breaking her limbs, perhaps? If I had heard these words from Jiang Yubai when I first reincarnated, I would have been terrified. Anyone would be afraid of power, afraid of capital, afraid of the people or things that once tormented them. Things are different now. While he was indulging in his desires, I had already made my moves, taking out most of his trump cards. Seeing that I remained unmoved, he leaned in closer, his breath almost touching my face. "If you're willing, I can help you correct this mistake. I'll divorce her and be with you. Then you won't have to work so hard. Jiang Group, I'll offer it to you with both hands, how about it?" Before I could speak, my colleague arrived. "President Tan, you're here so early?" "Oh, President Jiang is here too? Let me introduce you. This is our President Tan, the decision-maker for this collaboration." "What? She's not a junior staff member?" Jiang Yubai finally realized, utterly shocked. Smoothing my hair, I smiled at him. "President Jiang, you just mentioned that you'd offered Jiang Group to me. Does that offer still stand?" Looking at Jiang Yubai's stunned expression, I sneered. Super male syndrome, indeed, has a high probability of being accompanied by intellectual disability. And the reason I was trapped by such a person in my previous life was simply bad luck. I was coaxed and deceived into marriage right after graduation, and no one was willing to help me. If only I had other options. Lowering the price a bit more and signing the contract, I calculated the profits from this deal. I laughed wildly. Jumping out of the trap of marriage, I have unlimited possibilities. In the following 2 years, I repeatedly suppressed Jiang Yubai in business. He took his frustrations from me out on Tan Shuang. I once saw Tan Shuang during that time. One eye was blind, One leg was lame, and her mental state had collapsed. She was on the verge of madness. Unfortunately, her voice wasn't gone yet, and she still barked at me. Tan Xiao.
Why?
I clearly exchanged lives with you. Why do you still live better than me? Why is your husband like this?
Why?
Why didn't you tell me? Switch back. I want to switch back with you. You go be that damn Mrs. Jiang, let me be President Tan. Patting her rough face, I said softly. You took it yourself, silly sister. Also, flashing my badge, I pointed to the words on it. You should call me Chairman Tan now. The next time I heard about Tan Shuang, it was the news of her death. I heard that she was accidentally beaten to death by Jiang Yubai because of improper parenting. That child, perhaps because of his own genetic disease, or perhaps because of family upbringing issues. At only 3 years old, he was already vicious and cruel. Tan Shuang's eye was blinded by him with a fork. He also deliberately pushed his grandmother down the stairs and made his grandfather drink paint. He really did seem like a natural-born devil. After realizing his son was beyond saving, Jiang Yubai didn't show any remorse, but instead blamed his wife. It's all because you're useless. You can't even be a good mother. If it were Tan Xiao, she would never have raised my child like this. As for how I know all this, naturally I saw it on a legal program. In the program, Jiang Yubai finally stopped pretending, tearing off his human skin and roaring like a beast. The handcuffs and shackles rattled loudly. At the end of the program, the host even educated the public on the dangers of supermale syndrome, advocating for eugenics. The day I acquired Jiang Group, I sat in the office chair that Jiang Yubai once sat in. It was on the top floor of the building, overlooking the entire city. What Tan Shuang had craved for 2 lifetimes was now truly in my hands. She ultimately didn't understand. You stand on the bridge and look at the scenery. The people looking at the scenery will also look at you from the building. It's too crowded halfway up the mountain. It's best to go to the top and see.